Hi everyone, if you're struggling not getting success, then this video is for you. Nowadays, there's one truth in life that nobody can change. Your success is in your hands. It is not in the hands of luck. The only person who has the power to decide your future is you. But the question is, do you believe in yourself? Today, we'll talk about it. My name is Muniba Mazari, and I'm a motivational speaker. If you find this video fruitful, then you can appreciate me by like and subscribe and start a new journey with me. Let's start the topic. Good morning, beautiful souls. People often ask me, what time do you wake up in the morning? And I smile, not because I have a perfect answer, but because I know the secret that lives in the stillness of the early dawn. Today, I want to tell you this. Wake up at 4 a.m. and you will begin to hear your own soul whisper. They say the most important conversations you will ever have are the ones you have with yourself. But in the noise of the world, in the chaos of daily routines, we lose our ability to hear that still small voice within. That's why waking up at 4 a.m. is not just a habit. It is a path to inner awakening. It is the hour where the world goes silent. And for the first time in a long time, you begin to hear your own soul speak. There is no rush, no pressure, no competition, just presence. And in that presence, transformation begins. Have you ever noticed how different the air feels before sunrise? There's a sacred stillness that almost whispers to you, this is your time. It's in this hour that the strongest people build their lives, not by chance, but by choice. Because waking up at 4 a.m. isn't about productivity alone. It's about intimacy. Intimacy with your thoughts, your dreams, your fears, and your purpose. It's the hour where clarity replaces confusion and peace replaces pressure. Most people wait for clarity to come through someone else's validation. But at 4 a.m., when no one is watching, you learn to validate yourself. And that, my friend, is true power. You begin to distinguish between what matters and what doesn't. The opinions of others begin to lose weight. The distractions of the world fall silent. And what remains is raw truth. Your truth, that version of you, is not filtered by fear or shaped by the world. She is real. And she is waiting for you in the stillness of the morning. This hour is not just a routine. It's a revelation. It's where you build a relationship with yourself that is no longer dependent on the approval of others. Because before you can conquer your goals, you must conquer your thoughts. And thoughts are most honest in silence. You'll find that the excuses that once held you back begin to dissolve when you meet yourself in the quiet hours before dawn. The stories you've told yourself about why you can't, why it's too late, why you're not enough, they begin to lose their grip. You realize those were not facts. They were just noise. And at 4 a.m., noise has no voice. If you're waiting for your life to change, for your dreams to finally come alive, then maybe it's time to stop sleeping through your calling. Maybe, just maybe, your breakthrough doesn't come from more effort, but from more alignment. And alignment happens when you pause, when you listen. When you choose yourself before the world demands your energy. That moment when your feet touch the ground at 4 a.m., you are telling life, I am ready. I am present. I am becoming. Don't underestimate the power of that choice. Because waking up early is not just a discipline of the body, It's a declaration of the soul. It's how you declare to the universe that you're no longer waiting for life to happen to you. You are stepping into it fully and fearlessly. And something shifts in the atmosphere when you begin your day in communion with your purpose. It doesn't matter how loud the world gets later, because when you start your day in silence, anchored in truth, nothing can shake you. You don't react. You respond. You don't chase. You attract. You don't doubt. You decide. That's the power of 4 a.m. It doesn't just change your schedule. It changes your state, your spirit, your story. So if you're tired of living halfway, if you're done waiting for clarity, if you're ready to truly come home to yourself, then rise early. Not just to move faster, but to move deeper. Because your soul is not asleep. It's awake. And it's waiting for you at 4 a.m. At some point in life, you have to ask yourself, when was the last time I truly sat with myself? No distractions, no roles, no expectations. Just me as I am. Most people go through life performing. We wear masks that help us blend into the world, roles that help us survive. But in doing so, we often lose the deepest connection we have, the one with our own truth. That's why waking up at 4 a.m. is so powerful. It's not just about getting a head start on the day. It's about returning to who you are before the world told you who you should be. At 4 a.m., something remarkable happens. The noise of the world fades into the background. There are no phones ringing, no demands, no scrolling, just silence, deep, sacred silence. And in that silence, you meet someone you may have forgotten yourself, not the version that works endlessly to meet deadlines, not the version that smiles when it's hurting, not the version that shrinks to make others comfortable, but the version that breathes freely, dreams boldly, and longs for more. When you sit with yourself at 4 a.m., you come face to face with truth. And truth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a whisper. A quiet nudge in your chest saying, "This isn't the life I came here to live." That voice, so often drowned out during the day, gets louder in the early hours. And the more you listen to it, the more you remember what matters. You remember the passions you put on pause, the goals you buried under fear, the peace you sacrificed for approval. At 4 a.m., you don't need to perform. You don't need to be strong. You just need to be honest. There's a reason why so many people are afraid of silence, because silence reveals what business tries to hide. But the truth is, what you find in solitude is not your weakness. It's your foundation. That's where you start building a life that aligns with your values, not someone else's expectations. And that kind of life, the one built in truth, is the only life worth living. In solitude, you will also confront your pain. But don't run from it. That pain carries wisdom. At 4 a.m., you can sit with your wounds without judgment. You can ask them what they've been trying to teach you, and you can begin to heal not by pretending they don't exist, but by finally listening to them. This is the hour when tears become prayers and prayers become power. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to show up for yourself fully and faithfully. The beautiful thing about spending time in solitude is that it teaches you how to trust yourself again. When you're constantly surrounded by noise and people, you lose sight of your own voice. You start second guessing your intuition. But at 4 a.m., when the world is asleep and you are alone with your thoughts, you realize that voice inside you, the one you've ignored, has always known the way. It's not confused. It's not lost. It's simply been waiting for you to get quiet enough to hear it. This is why solitude is not loneliness. Solitude is sacred. It is where wisdom is born. It is where strength is refined. And it is where authenticity is reclaimed. The person you become in public is shaped by the person you meet in private. And if you don't like who you are when no one's watching, no amount of applause will make a difference. So let the world sleep a little longer. Let the sun rise slowly. While others chase attention, you seek alignment. While others scroll through distractions, you open the pages of your own heart. Because in those early hours, you're not just preparing for the day. You're reconnecting with your identity. And the more time you spend with yourself in truth, the more unshakable you become when the world starts to shake. Every great transformation begins with intention. And at 4 a.m., when the world is asleep and silence surrounds you like a gentle blanket, there is no better time to realign with the deepest parts of yourself. In this quiet hour, your mind is not yet distracted, your heart is not yet guarded, and your energy is untouched by the weight of the day. This is your sanctuary. This is your sacred window to reflect, to heal, and to create, not for the world, but for your soul. Too often we rush through our days, moving from task to task, without pause, without presence. We measure success by how much we've accomplished, not by how deeply we've lived. But at 4 a.m., success takes on a new meaning. It becomes less about doing and more about being. You finally have the space to ask yourself questions you've ignored. How am I really feeling? What do I need right now? What pain have I buried so deep I've forgotten it exists? Reflection is the doorway to awareness. And when you take time to reflect in the early hours of the morning, something beautiful begins to happen. Clarity emerges from confusion. Suddenly, decisions you were wrestling with seem simpler. Emotions that felt overwhelming begin to soften. You gain perspective. That was impossible in the middle of noise. You begin to see yourself not as broken or behind, but as someone in the process of becoming. And that is a powerful place to stand. But it doesn't stop there. Healing is the next step. True healing is not rushed. It happens in quiet moments, often when no one sees it. At 4 a.m., your heart is open. The masks are down. And that's when the real work begins. You can cry if you need to. You can forgive yourself for what you didn't know. You can let go of the things you've been holding on to. Bitterness, resentment, shame. Healing happens when you stop running from your pain and start holding space for it. And there's no better time to do that than in the stillness of the morning. With reflection and healing comes creativity. Not just creativity in the artistic sense, but the ability to design a life that reflects who you truly are. At 4 a.m., your imagination is fresh. You're not influenced by what others are doing, by what social media is showing, or by what the world expects. You are free to create from a place of authenticity. Write in your journal, not to be perfect, but to be honest. Sketch your ideas, not to impress, but to express. Speak affirmations into the mirror, not because they're trendy, but because they remind you who you are. This is when vision boards are made, when goals are clarified, and when dreams are written down in ink instead of left floating in doubt. You don't need to know the how. You just need to start. Let this hour be your anchor. Every morning you wake up early and choose to spend time with yourself. You're telling your future, I am coming for you with intention, not confusion. You're not just healing old wounds. You're laying the foundation for something extraordinary, and we call it life. You're building trust with yourself. And that trust, built one quiet morning at a time, becomes the fuel for every brave decision you make. When you begin your day with reflection, healing, and intention, you walk into the world differently. You're not reactive. You're responsive. You're not fragmented. You're focused. And people will notice. Not because you told them you woke up early, but because you carry a peace they cannot place, a strength they didn't see before, a glow that no amount of makeup or money could ever provide. That glow comes from within. It's the evidence of a woman who chose herself before the world chose her role. This isn't about perfection, it's about presence. At 4 a.m., you don't have to be everything to everyone. You just have to be true to yourself. Reflect deeply. Heal completely. Create fearlessly. That is the foundation of a life not just lived, but loved. There is a quiet kind of power that comes from choosing discipline over distraction. Waking up at 4 a.m. isn't about proving anything to the world. It's about proving something to yourself. It's about building a kind of inner strength that doesn't rely on motivation, applause, or convenience. It's a daily commitment to becoming the kind of person who does hard things, not because they are easy, but because they are meaningful. Discipline is not punishment, it's a declaration. And every time you rise while the rest of the world sleeps, you're making a statement. I will no longer live life by default. I will live by design. There's a reason most people never experience the fullness of their potential. Because they wait for the perfect conditions. They wait for energy, for motivation, for someone to come and push them. But that's not how greatness is built. Greatness is built in quiet decisions repeated daily. It's choosing to say no to what is easy so you can say yes to what is essential. And that begins the moment your alarm goes off and everything inside you says, stay, but your purpose says, go. At 4 a.m., there are no distractions pulling you in 1,000 directions. There is no noise convincing you that you're behind. There is only space, sacred, uninterrupted space, to do the things that build your future. Whether it's writing that book, studying that subject, exercising your body, or praying over your dreams, you are laying bricks no one can see yet. But one day, those unseen bricks will become the foundation everyone else admires. People will call you lucky, but you'll know it wasn't luck. It was discipline. And make no mistake, discipline is a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. And just like any muscle, it grows best when it's stretched. The early morning is your gym for the soul. It is where you stretch your willpower, your focus, your commitment. And each day you show up for yourself in those hours. You send a message to your subconscious. I am someone who follows through. That belief, planted in the dark, blooms in the daylight. But discipline doesn't just shape your habits. It reshapes your identity. You begin to see yourself differently. You stop identifying with excuses and start identifying with effort. You no longer believe the story that you're inconsistent, lazy, or incapable. Why? Because every morning you gather evidence that contradicts that lie. The person who wakes up at 4 a.m. is not the same person who sleeps through life. She is intentional. She is focused. She is becoming. There will be days when it's hard. Days when the bed feels warm, when yesterday's disappointments echo in your mind, and when no one is there to cheer you on. But those are the most important days. Because discipline built in the dark becomes resilience in the light. You'll face challenges, but you won't fold. You'll have setbacks, but you won't stay down. Why? Because you've trained your spirit when no one was watching. That training doesn't fade. It anchors you. And here's the secret: the more you practice discipline, the more freedom you create. It sounds backwards, but it's true. Discipline gives you the freedom to live on your terms. Freedom from guilt because you showed up. Freedom from regret because you gave your best. Freedom from chaos because you chose structure. The person who embraces discipline at 4 a.m. is the same person who walks through life with peace at 4 p.m. So no, this journey isn't always glamorous. There are no flashing lights, no instant rewards, just a quiet room, a ticking clock, and a choice. And every day you make that choice, you are not just creating a habit, you are building a legacy. One early morning at a time, one focused hour at a time, one small victory at a time. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be disciplined. That is how you change your life, not overnight, but over time. With quiet strength, with bold consistency, with unwavering belief. There's something undeniably sacred about taking control of your time. Especially in a world that constantly demands your attention, your energy, your presence, often before you've had a moment to give it to yourself. When you wake up at 4 a.m., you're not just beating the sun to the sky, you're taking ownership of your most precious resource, your time. And that changes everything. Because the moment you start owning your hours, you start owning your life. Most people wake up reacting. They roll out of bed already behind, rushing through routines, checking phones, chasing deadlines, and trying to keep up with a world that doesn't pause. But at 4 a.m., there is no race. There is no pressure. There is only presence. You're not competing. You're not comparing. You're simply creating space, rhythm, clarity. It's in that space that power is born. Because when you manage your time with purpose, you stop living on accident. The truth is, time is either used or wasted. There is no neutral. Every minute you give to distractions is a minute you can't give to your dreams. And if you don't claim your time, someone else will. That's why waking up early is not about the clock. It's about the commitment. The commitment to no longer be ruled by other people's urgencies, other people's expectations, or society's pace. It's a choice to set the tone of your day before the world sets it for you. When you rise before the chaos, you gain perspective, you realize how much power you actually have. You can use that hour to exercise your body, to nourish your soul, to learn something new, to pray, to journal, to breathe, deeply, fully, intentionally. You are no longer rushed. You are no longer scattered. You are deliberate. And there is no force more unstoppable than a human being who is deliberate with their time. Structure doesn't restrict freedom, it protects it. You see, when you know how your time is being spent, you begin to value it more. You say no with confidence. You protect your peace with conviction, and you no longer feel guilty for putting yourself first, because you've realized that everyone benefits when you show up full, not depleted. That's the power of rising early. It pours into every corner of your life. Not just your productivity, but your peace. Not just your schedule, but your spirit. Waking up at 4 a.m. helps you get ahead. Not just on your tasks, but on your thoughts. You begin the day with intention instead of stress. You start with clarity instead of confusion, and you carry that forward. That energy moves with you. It's in the way you speak. It's in the way you listen. It's in the way you show up. Suddenly, you're no longer surviving your days. You're directing them. Time is a mirror. How you use it reflects what you value. And when you choose to wake up before the noise, before the demands, before the distractions, you are declaring, I value my growth. I value my dreams. I value my life. That kind of alignment is rare, but it's also magnetic. It draws opportunities. It attracts clarity. It creates momentum. The most successful people in the world don't have more hours in a day. They just make different choices with theirs. And so can you. You don't need more time. You need more intention. You don't need a perfect schedule. You need the courage to take control of it. And it begins not with a grand gesture, but with a small, consistent decision to rise, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Rise before the world wakes. Rise before the noise begins. Rise and reclaim what has always been yours. Your time, your power, your life. Success is not an accident. It is a result of intentional actions, repeated consistently over time, often in silence and without applause. And if you look closely at the world's most accomplished individuals, the visionaries, the leaders, the creators, you will find a common thread woven into their stories. They all understand the power of routines, especially the kind that begin long before the world is watching. Waking up at 4 a.m. doesn't just shift your day, it reshapes your identity. It quietly rewires your brain for success, not because you are doing more, but because you are becoming more aligned, more focused, more disciplined, more you. There is something extraordinary that happens when you give structure to your morning. Your mind, usually pulled in 100 directions, begins to stabilize. Your body, instead of stumbling into chaos, finds rhythm. And your soul, so often neglected, begins to breathe again. That first hour of the day is the foundation for every hour that follows. If you own your morning, you command your mindset. And your mindset is everything, because success starts in the mind long before it shows up in your life. When you begin each day with a solid routine, you strip away the randomness that causes stress. You don't waste time figuring out what to do. You already know. You've designed your morning like an architect designs a home with purpose, with precision, with a clear vision of what it's meant to hold. Maybe it starts with prayer. Maybe it's journaling your thoughts, stretching your body, or reviewing your goals. Whatever it is, it's yours. And that ownership is what makes it powerful. You are no longer letting the day dictate who you become. You are telling the day exactly who you are. It's in these early hours that your subconscious is most open to influence. Your brain is like soft clay ready to be shaped by whatever you feed it. So feed it truth, feed it vision, feed it discipline. What you repeat every morning becomes your story. The affirmations you speak, the thoughts you think, the goals you review, they are not small acts. They are seeds. And seeds, when watered daily, become forests. Success is never about one grand moment. It's about the compounded impact of small moments done with intention. Most people chase motivation, hoping it will carry them through. But motivation is fleeting. Routines are reliable. They don't wait for how you feel. They remind you of who you are, even when you forget. Especially when you forget. That's why your 4 a.m. ritual becomes your anchor. It grounds you. It protects you from the chaos of the world. It shields you from self-doubt. Because no matter how the day unfolds, you began it in your power. Your routine is your personal contract with your future self. It's the evidence of your commitment when results aren't visible yet. And that's the real secret of successful people. They stay loyal to their vision even when progress is invisible. They know that greatness isn't built in bursts. It's built in the mundane, in showing up when it's hard, in pushing through when it's quiet, in trusting that each step is getting them closer, even when the staircase is hidden. There is something profoundly liberating about starting your day with intention. It sends a message to your heart: I matter. My dreams matter. My purpose matters. And once you start living from that place of alignment, life begins to shift. You walk differently. You think differently. You lead differently. You don't chase success anymore. You attract it. Because success always finds those who are prepared, and preparation begins before the sun rises. So let the world sleep a little longer. Let the noise stay quiet. While others are still dreaming, you're already building. You're not just following a routine. You're becoming the kind of person who honors their future every single day. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Just keep showing up. Keep honoring the process. Because while the world may not see your early mornings, your future absolutely will.